Now, we're going to have Omar come on. Now, Omar is a great speaker. I enjoyed your presentations last year. I think you did a couple last year, didn't you? I think we milked you hard last year. We kind of pushed you hard. We flogged you. He's a host of an iTunes Best 2014 podcast, the $100 MBA Show. He's delivered 900 plus lessons, 50,000 daily listens. Again, one of the true leaders in this industry, and you will get an enormous amount out of his presentation. Please give him a big, big round of applause.
I love podcasting. Podcasting gave me my voice as an entrepreneur. It gave me a level of discipline that I never had before, a level of discipline that allowed me to have published over 900 episodes of the $100 MBA Show, our podcast. Yeah. If you're wondering, that's more episodes than Seinfeld, The Golden Girls, and The Simpsons combined. But seriously, it opened so many doors for us, and in a way that I would never imagine. We grew an audience of incredible size that I just thought it would be impossible. We've grown up to over 30 million downloads. We've had the honor to be awarded the Best of iTunes in 2014, and frankly, it's the reason why I'm on stage today. Now, having said that, I hate podcasting. Podcasting is one of the most closed platforms on the planet. You have no idea who's listening to you. You have no idea if they're listening, how long they're listening, 10 minutes, 10 seconds. The only thing the person can really do is leave you a review. So I go and look at my reviews every day. I look forward to it. I read the review. It's amazing. Then I look at who it's from. And they're using their iTunes handle, so the review is from Furball47. What am I supposed to do with that? So you need to do something beyond just submitting your iTunes feed and hoping for the best. You might have heard of this saying, if you build it, they will come, right? I was waiting for you guys. If you build it, they will come. This does not apply to podcasting, right? Does not apply to podcasting at all. You need to build a marketing system outside the platform. You need to build your own audience and not be dependent on the algorithms that iTunes or Stitcher or Overcast offers, right? Back in 2014, when we were launching our podcast, the $100 MBA Show, I had a reality check. I opened up our category, the business section in iTunes, and I saw all these podcasting giants. I had to really ask myself, what am I going to do to compete with these giants? Giants like Tim Ferriss, who has 4 New York Times bestsellers. All this guy does is win, right? That's all he does. How am I going to compete with this guy, right? How am I going to compete with a giant like Jordan Harbinger, right, who created a podcast in 2006? That's before the iPhone, people. Think about that, 2006. Right? He had millions of downloads and raving fans around the world before I even published one episode. How am I going to compete with that? How am I going to compete with a giant like John Lee Dumas, who is the father of the Daily Podcast and is literally shooting fireballs at his competition? What am I supposed to do with that? Right? I had to get real. And I realized I needed a strategy. I needed a strategy to market my podcast not only within the podcast ecosystem, but outside. And I built this strategy, and I'm going to be sharing it with you today. And if you're wondering, we were able to hold our own and stand amongst the giants and be one of the top business podcasts on iTunes. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, how, Omar? How are you going to do this? Well, I'm going to share with you what we did, how we leveraged the power of webinars to be able to grow our podcast. All right? I have to warn you, your mind will be blown after you realize the power of webinars. Everybody who does webinars hasn't stopped doing them since they've discovered them. So you need to really take in what I'm going to say to you today, and I really want you to apply it. Okay? But first, I want to address the elephant in the room. I am Omar Zenhom. I am the CEO and co-founder of WebinarNinja, a webinar platform. Don't hold that against me, okay? Ronsley asked me to speak about webinars here today. I'm not here to sell you WebinarNinja. But I am here to sell you on webinars and the power that it has. And no matter what software you choose to use, all the strategies I'm going to be sharing with you today, you can apply them to that. Sound good? Cool. first, we have to talk about why webinars. Because I see some faces out there that are saying, I've heard about webinars. I'm not really sure about this. I mean, really, do I need to do this? So we're going to address this first. Why webinars? And I want to give you 3 compelling reasons why webinars are so important and why you have to do them. Not optional, have to do them. Okay? Number 1, email. Email is the most coveted asset in any business today. Not any online business, any business. Your email, your inbox is the most sacred digital space to you, correct? Right? So access to that is like gold, right? It's like gold. You can't ignore email. You have to deal with email. You have to open it. You have to read it. You have to reply to it. You have to archive it. You have to do something, right? You can't just scroll, by it like it's a Twitter feed. So email is incredibly important. And for this reason alone, you should be doing webinars. Because I believe with the rise of social media and these platforms, it's getting very crowded, and the value of the inbox is going to be even more valuable in the next 24 months. So it's a gold rush right now. So you should be getting as many emails as you can, okay? And I believe, and anybody who's run webinars, that webinars are an email collecting machine. Compelling reason number 2, trust. Every relationship begins with licking. No, I'm just kidding, guys. Not licking. It begins with trust, okay? It begins with trust. So the more I trust you, the more I will trust you with my time, right? I'm going to give you my time. But the problem with podcasting, it's just the tip of the iceberg. I can't build real trust because it's one way. Your listeners are hearing you, but you're not listening to your listeners. You don't know what they think. You can't conversate with them, right? On a webinar, you can do that. I can quickly build trust, right? On a webinar, they see my face, they see the video, they see me in my office, they hear my voice, I see their avatar, I can chat, I can ask questions. It's a live conversation, okay? And I can quickly build trust in that way. Reason number 3, attention. Now, I get asked a lot, Omar, why webinars? I mean, I find it so easy just to hop on, Facebook and just do a Facebook Live or do a Snapchat or do a Periscope if that still exists, right? And the last time I checked, Facebook is not exactly a distraction-free zone, right? Let me just paint the picture. You're on Facebook, somebody's watching your YouTube Live, I'm watching your YouTube Live. I am competing with everything on the feed right below you, different advertising on the right, notifications tell me, hey, friend requests, click me. Somebody messaging me in Facebook Messenger. And then right under your Facebook Live, you have Gary Vaynerchuk telling you to hustle and get off Facebook. Right? So it's not a controlled environment. And that's what I love about webinars. They are a controlled environment. When you register for a webinar, you register in advance. You add it to your calendar. You go in knowing, I'm going to dedicate an hour to go to this workshop and learn. You're going in with the right intention, right? I control the environment. All they see is my content and the conversation. That's incredibly powerful. I was a school teacher for over 13 years, and control is a big thing when you're trying to teach. So if you can control the environment, you can control the outcome. Now, they're going in with that intention, right? So they're going to get a whole lot more because they're immersed, right? They're going in, they're saying, I'm going to learn, I'm going to ask questions, and they're going to feel like, wow, I got a lot of value out of that. Let's compare that to a Facebook Live, for example, where the last time I saw a Facebook Live, I just was trying to kill 5 minutes before the Uber came. No intention to finish it. I'm just scrolling through Facebook. So this is why I think webinars are incredibly powerful, these 3 reasons. Now, when you're running a webinar, you have a goal. And the goal is not just to grab their attention or to bring awareness to your podcast, right? Your goal is to do 3 things. You want them to take action. You want them to do things. That's how things get done, right? When people do things, right? You want them to subscribe to your show is number 1. Subscribe to the show. Not just listen, hit that subscribe button. Number 2, you want them to rate and review your show. You're asked, why is that important? Well, number 1, you can't be the only one saying that my show is awesome, right? You got to have other people saying, hey, I love this show because of this. This helps me, right? And this really helps you grow an audience because other people are testifying and saying this show is credible. And then lastly, you want people to actually listen to the show, right? Not just download it or subscribe, to actually consume the content, to actually come up to me in a conference and say, I love that episode on so-and-so. That's what you really want. That's the goal. And that's what we're going to do with webinars, to accomplish these 3 actions. Sound good? Awesome. Now, there are 3 types of people that we're going to try to target when we're trying to run these webinars, okay? The first type of person is somebody who's never heard of podcasting, okay? Now, the reason why I highly recommend you go after these people is because these are the most loyal listeners I have, because I introduce them to the medium. They'll never unsubscribe to your show because there's a romantic relationship with that. Wow, I discovered podcasting through the $100 MBA Show, right? That's number 1. Number 2, I'm going to target people who have never heard of your podcast. They might be listening to other podcasts, but never heard of yours, okay? Number 3, sorry. It's very tricky, this one. Number 3, they've listened to your podcast, but they've never subscribed or rated or reviewed your show. So these are the 3 types of people we're trying to find, okay? So let's create this webinar. I'm not going to go through the details of how to actually physically create the webinar because it takes 10 seconds on WebinarNinja, or it's pretty easy. But you're going to have to give your webinar a title, right? A topic. And I'm going to give you your topic today. Super simple. I want you to open up your podcast right now and look at the title of your last episode. You're going to have, for example, my last episode was, how to build an email list. That's the title of my webinar. I'm going to build a webinar with that title. I already know the content. I just ran a whole episode about it. I had guests on it. I learned a whole bunch. And that's going to be my title for my webinar. Okay? So this next step after we've created our webinar, we have a title, is that we're going to drive traffic to the webinar. I'm going to show you how to do that. But remember, we're trying to drive traffic to 3 different types of people. People have never heard of podcasting, never heard of your podcast, or they're listeners, but they haven't subscribed or rated and reviewed. So there are 6 ways to market your webinar. Now, there's a whole bunch of other ways, but these are the ones I find that really, really work, right? And I've done this for about 4 years now, and it's been an incredible, incredible way to actually drive traffic to your registration page. Number 1, you're going to start at home. The number 1 neglected marketing strategy is people forget they have a website. Your website is your biggest asset in business, and people are going to your website by chance. They're Googling, they're finding your keywords, and they're getting to your website. So make sure on your website you put up a hello bar that says, hey, I run a workshop on so-and-so, in my case it would be building your email list. Click here to register. Link that button to your registration page. You have a blog, put it on the column on the right, if you have a right column on your blog, and say, hey, I run a workshop, here it is. You're going to get registrations just because people are on the site. Take advantage of organic traffic. Start at home. Number 2, invite your audience. Sounds kind of like, yeah, of course, but even if you have 50 people on your email list, email them. Tell them, hey, I'm running a workshop on so-and-so. Please, attend this. This is what you're going to learn. Sell them on the webinar. A lot of people do not understand that everything's a sales exercise. You have to sell them on why they're going to get there. Sometimes, you can give giveaways and books, but sometimes I just tell them what fun it's going to be. I should tell them, hey, I'm going to be sharing with you when I danced to Michael Jackson, Billie Jean when I was 4 years old. What? Really? I got to go to this webinar, right? Of course, that video comes at the end. But, I have to entice them somehow. Number 3, team up. This is one of my best strategies. Now, let me give you an example. Before we launched the $100 MBA Show, I was trying to find different markets, different places where I can, share the $100 MBA Show with. And the business market was very saturated. So I stepped out of it, and I went to digital photography. I was very fond of Digital Photography School, the blog. Darren Rouse grew a great blog. It's got over 1 million subscribers, right? So instead of just approaching Darren, a nobody knows who I am. Hey, Darren, I love your blog. Hey, can I write a quick post for you? Right? That's a quick way to get a no, right? So what I did is I actually researched the whole blog. I looked at any blog posts that have to do with the business of photography. I realized there were some gaps. There was not a lot of, great articles on this topic. I read all the comments in the blog to find out, hey, what are people saying? What do they need, right? Then I wrote the whole article, 2,500 words, images, everything, right? Proofread and edited a whole bunch of times. Then I emailed Darren. Hey, Darren, I studied your actual website. I saw that, hey, you have some gaps in this area. I would love to contribute, right? I read all your comments. Here is attached in this email a whole 2,500 word article that I'd love for you to consider. That's an easy way to get a yes, because they actually see what they're going to get, right? And you might be saying, well, what if he said no? No problem. I'll publish it on my own site, right? So what I do at the end of the article is I say, hey, you must be really serious about this topic because you made it to the end of this article, right? Join me for a live workshop. Click here to register. It's absolutely free. It's still, to this day, after 4 years, one of the top 10 posts on Digital Photography School. And it's because I just put in the work, and this really, really works. You could do this with podcasting as well. My first year in podcasting with the $100 MBA Show, I contacted over 200 podcasts. I looked at the top 200 podcasts in business, and I contacted over 200 podcasts. 60 of them said yes. The rest ignored me and said no, right? But I got on 60 podcasts as a guest, and when they asked me, hey, Omar, do you have anything for our audience? Of course I do. I got a free live workshop I'd love you to attend, and I send them my link. And I make it a very easy link so they can remember. WebinarNinja.com/workshop, right? And then they can easily go, and that link just forwards to my registration page. So teaming up is great. You don't have an audience, go to where there is an audience, add value. Write about it. Write about it. Write a blog post about it. Why? If you have a couple of weeks before your actual webinar, you can just write a blog post and publish it, and then a lot of people will find this topic in a Google search and find your blog post, and you'll get some Google juice, and on the bottom you can invite them to the webinar. It's a great way for you to market and to really be able to bring in new audience members that have never heard of you. Number 5, get social. If you're big on social media, I don't mean just say, hey, I'm doing a webinar, it's this time, it's about this topic. Love you guys, see you there, right? Just like, what Sean talked about, right? What I like to do is, you just go in and you start a conversation. What are you guys struggling with? I'm thinking about doing a topic on this thing. Is this really like something you're struggling with, building your email list? Yeah, actually I am. Actually, I really would like to know how to optimize my website to get more emails. I actually really want to know about so-and-so. I really want to figure out if, does it matter to have a blue button or a green button, right? So you get them engaged before you even say anything. They are actually kind of committed now because they have been engaged in the conversation. And then after you get all this, thanks guys for all the feedback, thanks for all your help. I would love to invite you to my workshop. Here it is. You can register for free. You're going to get a lot more registrations than just throwing it out there. So definitely get social on social media. And lastly, CTAs on your actual podcast. You should have a call to action on every single podcast episode to invite them. Now you might be saying, but they're listening to the podcast. Right? Why should I tell them to come to the webinar to talk about, my podcast? Well, because we talked about this, right? They might be listening, but they're not subscribing, they're not rating or reviewing. You want to make sure that they're a listener for life, right? So these are some great ways to market your podcast. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, awesome, I got this audience, I got all these registrants. What do I do when it's time for the webinar, right? How do I show up? Very simple. Step 1 is you start with your audience. So I like to start every webinar not only welcoming my audience. Hey, John, it's nice to see you coming from San Diego. Oh, it's Amish from India. Great to see you, Amish. Hey, Sarah from Palestine, whatever. Everybody around the world, talking to them. It's great, right? And I'm welcoming them. But I ask them a very critical question, and it's so important, not only for you, but for the audience. And the question is, what would be a win for you today? I ask them, what will be a win for you today? And they say, well, actually, I really would like to learn about this, about email marketing. Okay, I have all these emails. How do I actually engage them in my sequences? I want to learn about that. I want to learn about this, right? By doing this, not only do I hear from the audience what they want, I have it in my head, and I want to make sure I address these things when I'm teaching. Because at the end of the workshop, I say, so today we covered 1, 2, 3, 4, and I answered all these things. Did you get a win today? They're going to say, yeah, that was great. I got exactly what I wanted. Right? So you automatically make sure that people leave satisfied, and this is going to be important later. I'll tell you why they need to be satisfied. Okay? So start with the audience. Number 2, teach your topic for 20 minutes. You know this topic. You just did a podcast episode about it. You just learned from your guest about this topic. Share. Hey, I had John Lee Dumas on my podcast. He talked about so-and-so. I thought that was really insightful. I actually tried it, and it worked. And you talk about that for 20 minutes when you're running your actual webinar. Number 3, you tease them in a good way, right? You tease them by telling them, hey, my next episode is going to be about this topic. This is what my topic is all about. And this is what I'm going to be covering on the next episode, right? Sounds good? Yeah. Well, let me make sure you don't miss it. How do I make sure they don't miss it? I show them how to subscribe. Why? Because apparently you need to have a degree in computer engineering to learn how to subscribe or to rate and review, okay? So I actually pull out my phone and I get on camera, and you could do like screenshots on a PowerPoint slide if you want, but I think it's kind of authentic. It's kind of cool to show them on your phone, and I can show them on iTunes, or I can show them on Stitcher. Hey, just search the $100 MBA Show right here in the search box. You see, I see? Cool. You guys following along? Go ahead and do that right now. And I get them to do it on the workshop. It's a workshop. Get them to do something, right? They search me. Oh, you see me? Oh, yeah, I love that picture. Great. Hit that button that says subscribe. There you go. Now you subscribed, guys. Awesome, right? And I show them right on the camera, and it makes a whole lot of difference. Why? Because I may have 300 people register. I get like 120, 30, 40, 50 people, that sign up and actually attend the webinar, right? And then out of those people, I get at least 100 new subscribers, right? Every time I run a webinar, everybody's saying to me, oh, I'm plateauing. I'm getting at 400, 500, 600, 1,000. I want to kind of break through. This is a great way to break through. You've given them incredible value with the workshop, and now you're going to show them how they can get more free value on your podcast, right? By subscribing. Now, once I've showed them how to subscribe, I want to capitalize, right? And you don't have to do this on the webinar, but you can show them, hey, listen, if you got a lot out of my workshop, if you love my podcast, if you want to support me, I want to hear from you. I want to show you how you can leave me a rating and a review, and I show them how to do it. You can take your time. It takes 2 minutes. Give me a rating, a review. It takes 2 minutes. Now, not everybody that's on the webinar is going to do that, but there's a good number that will, and they will reciprocate. And you guess what? It's going to be more than you have right now and more than if you never ran a webinar, right? So you're definitely going to get people that want to reciprocate and say, hey, thanks. I really appreciate it. I want to show my gratitude and leave a review. And lastly, I open up for Q&A. And I like to help people out for about 10, 15 minutes. So there's your format. Super, super simple to run a webinar to grow your podcast. Now, this is what webinars do. Again, it gets you new listeners and subscribers, gets you current listeners to subscribe, and gets your ratings and reviews for your podcast. Now, it doesn't end there because now you have their email address. Remember how important emails are, right? So now you have their email address. You got to make sure you move them over to your email marketing, whatever it's MailChimp, Infusionsoft, ActiveCampaign, and you add them to your funnels. Add them so they get your newsletters, they get your podcast episodes, they get your special offers, right? And let all that work you did work for you automatically. Now, I know I just gave you a lot of information, and I know you're probably asking questions like, well, how do I don't know how to get started. What about the equipment for webinars? What about how to sell on a webinar? What about how to follow up with my customers later on? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And I got your back, okay? So if you go to WebinarNinja.com/course, we have a highly produced 7-day, 7-part course on how to plan and launch your webinar. It's called Your Webinar Blueprint. Super proud of this. We have over 30,000 people have taken this course. It really helped a lot of people. So if you go there, you'll get free access. So go ahead and check it out, WebinarNinja.com/course. Now, here's the question. Will you take action? Will you take action with what I just gave you right now? Now, a lot of you won't, and that's okay, because some of you will, and you'll have a competitive advantage, and you'll rise to the top. Thank you very much.